For 700 years, my people have been enslaved without voice, without hope. Now, I am their sword, and I do not forgive. I do not forget. So let him lead me onto his shuttle. Let him think he owns me. Let him welcome me into his house, so I might burn it down. Hello, Rusters. Here we are, about to start Golden Sun. I am pumped. I can't wait. My name is Chuck, and to stay in line with the prologue in Chapter 1 of Golden Sun, I will be the proctor of the day. And with me is the Arch Primus of House Berg, Cullen. How are you, my goodman?
Hello, Rusters. Charles, I'm well. My ducks, I am very well. I love that you're somehow going to try and keep the nickname thing rolling through. Now that we're on Golden Sun, we are looking at 50 plus chapters, which means at least 25 nicknames have to come to you over the next, what'll be probably like 4 or 5 months.
Yes,
But
I might.
I'm well.
I see if you notice, I'm probably going to make up some of my own in there and see if it sounds convincing enough in case I run out of content. I don't know. If not, I might be sending messages to Pierce Brown saying, help me. But
so you're going to have fan fiction nicknames within the world.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yes, yeah. All right, I'm doing that. So before we jump into Golden Sun, though, we have a couple housekeeping items we wanted to touch on. One of them I am calling the Green Death. And for those of you who know, you know what the Green Death is. These recaps that Cullen and I do may contain spoilers, headcanon, spit tubes, hollow experiences, stim shots, you name it. Cullen and myself we're sometimes adults, and we discuss events or topics within Red Rising that may be an issue for some, so please, listeners, beware. And final, we are here because of Pierce Brown, putting pen to paper and drawing this imaginary world in our minds. So, as always, a salute to Howler 1.
Indeed, indeed. A hearty howl to Howler 1.
Hearty howl. Always a howl. Now, my goodman, intergalactic trivia.
Oh boy, here we go.
You think you can do this?
Yeah, give it a shot. We'll see what I don't know, but we'll see.
That's how I felt. I have to admit to anyone listening that we're doing a couple questions to each other in the beginning of every chapter, and I have to say that I texted you and I was like, be kind, be gentle. I don't quite remember everything. You've been on a roll, so let's see if you can keep it up. Now, first one. From the first book, Red Rising, we learned of proctors and their roles within the Institute. Is this a factual statement? It's two-parters. The Rim and Asteroid Belt typically share institutes between multiple moons and asteroids. The main planets of the core have one institute per planet.
The first portion is true.
Yeah.
The second portion is false. I think that Earth has multiple institutes.
You are correct. The one that has more than one institute would be the Earth. And how many are there total on the Earth?
Oh, shit. I don't. 3.
There's only 2. There's on the
2.
Eastern.
My gut was 2, but okay. All right. We start off well.
Yep. And there's only going to be 2 questions and then a fun fact that I found. I'm looking up some of these. You have the year Darrow attended the Institute, there was a premier, Priam Ao Khan, the guy that we love, that was in it for like a chapter.
Yep.
As a premier, he was able to bypass the drafting process entirely. There was also another premier student that year. Do you remember his or her name?
Virginia or Augustus?
That was my guess as well, but it wasn't. It was her twin.
Oh, it was the Jackal.
Yeah, the Jackal was a premier for House Pluto.
Okay, okay. That is new information to me. I was
Nice.
just guessing, but I'm
We
sure
have one.
if it's in the book, I read it, but I clearly did not retain that information. So we're 1 for 1 on the year
And I assumed
or
as
on the
well.
book.
I thought it was Mustang as well, but I guess it was Adrius.
I remember her giving Darrow shit at one point for being like, he was like, "Oh, I was drafted in the top 20 or 10 or whatever," and she was, I thought for a second, oh, she was like, you got drafted. What kind of a
Yeah.
pleb gets drafted? But she must have just been giving him shit for what order in the draft he was.
And exactly,
Those are good questions.
he was trying to remember if she was drafted in front of him, if he might remember who she
Yes.
was or where she went. But yeah,
Yes,
so
yes, 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 yes.
and of course we know Nero he was cheating in book 1 and wanted everything for his son, so he went the extra mile and must have paid who knows what to just make
Yeah.
him a premier. And
Okay.
why do you think he put him on House Pluto though instead of Mars? I don't know the answer. This is just
That's it. Yeah. I don't know if we would even have a wild guess at that other than
uh,
maybe it's a house that doesn't have a lot of like, you know, House Athena, Apollo, Jupiter, Mars. Those are all probably pretty popular houses. A lot of famous people send their kids there or like wealthy, and maybe Pluto's like a lower tier. So it's more likely that his kid would start off with, I don't know, like less of a mark on his
uh,
back or something.
less of a struggle. I
Yeah.
imagine that maybe Nero had more pull with the proctor from Pluto, and he
Oh
thought
yeah, that
he
makes
could get
sense.
more benefits for his kid, but we don't
Yeah,
know.
that no,
I'll
that
have to
makes
look
sense.
into it more, but maybe somebody else knows. If they do, they can send a type beam.
Good luck. I doubt that there's much information about that out there,
Yeah.
but it would be interesting because it is a good question. Like, why would he start him in Pluto's? But yeah, I'm intrigued.
So we have a fun fact that I learned. The Institute of Mars is famous for its violence and brutality, with notable instances of cannibalism and mutilation occurring in various years. So
Mm.
it wasn't something new.
Yeah, I think Diomedes or Diomedes, however you
Yeah.
want to say it. I think when he and Lysander are talking about the Institute, or no, maybe it's in Lightbringer when he and Darrow are talking about it.
Hmm.
At some point, Diomedes makes reference to how absurdly violent the core planets, but particularly Mars, are when it
Yep.
comes to their institute.
There's only one, though, that is considered more brutal, and it happens to be the Io Institute, but that is mostly because of the harsh terrain and brutal weather. And I guess apparently their games there last longer than the standard games of 9 to 10 months for a school to finish and have a victor, where some of theirs went years, which was a
Really?
topic we kind of questioned. Like, how do you complete and crush 12 houses in a matter of months? Sometimes
Where
things
did you
linger.
learn that?
This is information I found from the Rising wiki.
Interesting. I did not know that. That's very interesting.
And it is said that the conditions at IO can be described as capable of freezing a student's blood before it can drip from the wound.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's not
So
ideal.
no. So those are some fun facts. And now we shall jump into the howl.
Uh, uh,
We have to do a howl of appreciation on our first episode, our first chapter. And this one goes out to Book and Box Co. We
Indeed.
have been sitting on this new logo for a little bit. We've been waiting to use it. I may, if people noticed, have slipped accidentally in one video on Instagram and put it at the end. And Cullen was like, "What the hell are you
I
doing?"
noticed.
Yeah. But we wanted to drop it for our newsreel. and which we did do. And if anyone hasn't seen it, it's on our Instagram, Sons of Aries
Well,
Pod.
if they've been listening, it's on the feed,
Yeah,
so
that as well.
hopefully you listen
So,
to it.
and so we did show the new logo there, and Book and Box Co. were awesome. They were able to make this for us, and we just have to give you a shout out. We're beyond ecstatic, and this howl goes out to you, to anyone who wants to check them out on Instagram. It's at Book and Box Co. and on Etsy, booksandboxco.etsy.com. They are a self-admitted digital designer and book lover. So go check them out.
All the stuff that they've done. They are producing tumbler glasses for your whiskey if you're like me
Yeah.
and you're a Lorno Arcos fan and you want to pour a little bit of Lagavulin into a nice fine tumbler. They've got those. They've got sweatshirts and shirts and whatnot. All of them came out great. In fact, we both have Sons of Aries t-shirts
Yep.
that we purchased from Book and Box Co. using the new logo, and they are fantastic.
I'm
I
afraid to
should be
wear it.
wearing mine. I don't know why. I know.
I have it right there, and I'm like, I don't want to put it on. Now my kids will like run up to me with a bucket of paint or something, and
It's definitely going to end up sticky.
yeah,
But yeah, they produce some fantastic stuff, and we truly appreciate the hell out of them because we didn't ask for it. They were just kind enough to just be like, "Hey, do you guys want to use this?" And
yeah,
we would be morons to say no.
yeah.
So yes, a howl from both of us to Book and Box Co.
Here we go. So now, after that, Cullen, are you prime?
I am prime, my good man. I am prime indeed.
So we have the prologue in chapter 1. Prologue, our story begins back where we were left off. Darrow has taken Olympus at the Institute. He is victorious, of course, as the arch primus of Mars. And for better or worse, he has accepted Nero Augustus's offer. He has decided to become a lancer of House Augustus, the same man who ordered his wife Io hanged. In my mind, it was what was a better way to get close to the man that you essentially want to kill? Keep your
There
friends
is none.
close, keep your enemies closer.
I
So
mean, he's sleeping with the man's daughter, so
that too, which
doesn't
he
get
was
much
okay with.
closer.
Nero,
I mean, I would hope so.
no, Darrow was okay with it, but Nero, when that got brought up and they're on the Institute, and he brought up how close he was with Mustang, and Nero was like, I don't care about such trivial matters. You guys could do whatever you want.
As we will soon see, Nero is a very, very cold, analytical character. So
Yes.
it's not surprising that he doesn't care.
Yeah. He only really, I think, cares about himself or his image, very
His
narcissistic.
name,
His
his
name.
name, his name, the name Augustus means something.
Wow, what movie is that from Salem with Daniel Day-Lewis?
The Crucible,
The Crucible. It is my
because it is
name.
my name and I
Yeah.
cannot have another.
Awesome. Awesome actor. Daniel Day-Lewis. He's coming back. All right, we're getting on a tangent.
I know. Yep.
So
5 minutes in.
stop it. Nero informs Darrow to take his last look at his old life as they head from Olympus towards the shuttles. Darrow sees Cassius and his family across the landing pad, giving him death stares. Nero boasts that he and his family are essentially untouchable. Reap, deep down, is trying to quell the rage building inside of him, knowing that this is the man who killed his wife. And to his surprise, all it takes is a single touch to calm him down. The hand of Mustang, the daughter of Neo, Virginia Au Augustus. Nero states, "Take a last look. All that came before was but a whisper of our world. When you leave this mountain, all bonds are broken, all oaths dust. You are not prepared. No one ever is." Now, I love this quote. I had to include it in the prologue for two reasons. It kind of foreshadows a little bit of his literal words. All that came before was but a whisper of our world. Red Rising was basically two locations on one planet, Lycos, of course, in the bowels of Mars, and the Institute on the surface. And as we will go through Golden Sun, that scope unravels
Yeah.
vastly. The whole solar system, basically. But we also dive into politics, more into the society itself,
Hmm.
and warfare. Not pretending schooling academy stuff, but legit warfare. And the second reason I love this quote and had to include it is the challenge implied in his statement. When he says all bonds are broken, all oaths dust, I think of Severo. I think of Mustang. Severo, as Cullen, you might agree, reminds me a little bit of myself. I don't take
Yeah.
I don't take oaths very lightly, and I do not take friendships, lightly. Loyalty is but the spine that like centers me.
Mm.
And I question Nero's confidence in his statement. And if asked, I don't think Severo would ever say no if Darrow reached out and asked for help. I think you would agree with that.
I mean, we
We know.
actually we know that that is not true,
Well, all right, and we'll get to that point. But for the
but
most
that's
part, yeah.
yes. No, no, no. I agree with you 100%. I
But
think,
when loyalty gets to that point, when you have your own family and children,
where does
and
loyalty
yeah,
lie?
yeah. So your loyalty to one, so that's where things get a little muddled, but those are books away.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
I think it's a great quote. It also there's so many like callbacks and call forwards in this speech. You have the "You are not prepared" from the prologue of Red Rising.
Yep.
He's also saying that right here. You're not prepared for the fact that all these bonds are going to be broken. The world is much bigger than what it was for you right now. It's going to become huge. Can you survive it? We also have the touch of Mustang staying
Yes.
Darrow.
Yes.
As we will see, that is about the only thing that can hold
Yep.
the tiger inside at bay,
And that's a
which is
topic.
I'd never
Yeah.
picked up on it until you just pointed it out. So yeah, it's a great starting point for Golden Sun to begin.
And I'll touch on that more because it is powerful. And it's when I read that and how his mind and his inner thoughts just shift and quell in the calm. It's powerful. But as far as this statement goes towards Mustang and her relationship, we've seen, of course, their bond grow since the Institute. And we've also witnessed her strip down naked and hogtie her own twin brother.
Yep.
So as Cullen would say, I'm titillated to see how this plays out. Now,
Indeed. Indeed.
the last quote from the prologue before we move on to chapter 1 is after Darrow is boiling over, knowing what he must do for himself, for the rising, Mustang is the one that calms him. But then his daughter takes my hand, and I feel all the lies fall heavy on my shoulders. They say a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. They made no mention of the heart. To me, that's a heavy quote to start off a book. And
Yeah.
we already know now that Darrow's heart is completely twisted. His love for EO that started this journey, now his feelings towards Mustang. I wouldn't say you call it love at this point, but it's something. It's red versus gold, duty versus self. And you know the weight of one's love by how they could stop you in your tracks in the moments of bliss or sorrow.
Mm.
Like I remember me personally, a moment of excitement. I was finished going back to school. I was receiving an award, which was probably for something stupid. Like I showed up, my
Learning
attendance
how to
was good.
read.
Yeah. So I was getting something, not anything grand. And there I am, stoic, reminding myself is I was a Marine. I can stand there, chin up. And then I look over and I see my wife in the crowd, like smiling at me. And in that moment of bliss, like, it just shocks you, and it, like, broke me where that's never happened before. And the opposite effect, there was a time when I was traveling in Boston, again, with my wife. Then we were only dating, and we were with some other friends, and we got into some stupid, tricky situations, you would say. And in the moment of chaos,
Don't incriminate yourself.
yeah, allegedly, um,
Yeah.
the lawyer says it was in the moment of crisis at this time, it was her words and hands that instantly pulled me back, that calming feeling, that trusting voice. These are things you experience only from those that you truly love. So Darrow doesn't
Mm.
really know it at the time, but Mustang already has that power over him. And not like power like commanding, she can control him, but it's that feeling of love that he has towards her. It is
It's
powerful.
it's given power.
Yes.
You've chosen to give power to somebody. I mean, it doesn't feel like a choice because you're in love or whatever, but it is an active choice, which makes it even more important. It's a more heartfelt and meaningful thing because you've chosen to give that person power.
Yeah.
When somebody takes power and controls you, that's the very, very much the opposite. And I think that that's a really good thing to point out. I think it's also important to remember that, like, it's crazy that you have Pierce Brown channeling Abraham Lincoln in the prologue to the sequel to a fantasy sci-fi series.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is pretty. It just it's what makes it so rich is that you have just references to Abraham Lincoln, a House Divided speech,
Yep.
in a prologue where a guy is talking to another guy about how high school was hard, but college is going to be really fucking hard. You
Yep.
don't even know. I mean,
It
it gives
works
weight
though. How
to
he
the
he
world.
pulls
Well, it
this.
gives real weight. It gives it
Yeah.
a sense of like lived in reality, but also the stakes are never not high. They're always very high. They're just getting higher and higher. Every time we get introduced into this world, the stakes have become X amount larger.
Uh,
Um,
it
and so I
ever
think that this little
climbing.
passage does a good job of kind of doing that.
Nice. So after that, that's the end of the prologue. We jump into chapter 1 titled Warlords. My quote I just want to throw in at the beginning: live fast, die young. Tactus.
Which isn't that like a Tom Petty reference?
Oh, I don't know.
Isn't there a
Is
song where he's like live fast and leave or die young and leave a pretty corpse? Or
I
maybe
believe
it's
it.
just a saying. Maybe I'm making it up.
So we fast forward about 2 years. Darrow is on the command deck of a starship, a man of war named Quietus, which literally means death or something that causes death. He is primus of a fleet, appearing to end their year-long schooling of space and naval combat at the academy. But not all has gone swimmingly during his schooling, he would say. His left arm is broken and in a sling. Ion burns around his neck, which I don't think we ever found out how that happened. What broke his arm? We
No.
know who broke his arm because Darrow admits it, but the actual fight and then the burns around his
Yeah.
neck is never explained, unless you can remember something
No,
from
I
that.
don't think it is. It's just we're led to believe that it's just the
A
rigors of
rough,
the academy
yeah.
are rough and tumble. I mean, if high school is the institute and the academy is college, then
It's
it's
gonna,
going to
yeah,
be pretty tough.
yeah. It's gonna be fun. He is currently surrounding his final foe, a man named Karnus, the same man who broke his arm, Karnus al-Balona, older brother to Cassius. It is said that Karnus is the monster they let out of the basement to kill things. They said that
Pretty
Karnus,
badass, very
yeah,
intimidating.
And when we get later to the gala scene and when Darrow's like standing up and chatting with him, I understood him a little bit. Like the guy's a brute and he's an asshole, but he's very blunt. He's almost like a male version of Victra to a point, like
I
just
that is a
forward.
great analogy. I
Yeah.
never put that together because the funny thing is I actually like Karnus. Karnus
Yeah.
is an animal that knows he's an animal.
Yes.
And he doesn't he makes no bones about it. He's not trying to be a iron gold. He's not trying to be a upstanding member of society who just happens to have this incredible violence to him. He is a bruiser and he knows it and he doesn't give a shit that the world knows it as well.
Yeah.
And to your
He's a
point about
tool.
Victor, it's the same thing. He's like, I am your enemy and you will
Yes.
know it. Like she
And
says, if I ever, we'll get to it, but that's a great analogy.
she just has a little bit more flair to it, but they're basically, I see him as the
And also,
same.
she has a good heart. I think
Yeah.
that's, she
Well, he
has a
does
good
too
heart
to a
and he,
point. I mean, he cares about his family and, he's always protecting, like everything he does is for the Bologna
oh, see, I
family.
disagree there. I don't think he gives a shit about his family. I think his family gives him the ability, they just are able to
They
channel
unleash
him.
him.
They're
Yeah.
just saying, they're just point and fire. Whereas if they didn't have a target for him to go at, then he'd probably be like tormenting and
In the
brutalizing
basement.
the help and becoming a horrible person to be around at home. They'd much rather him go off to school and target Darrow.
Give him
But
something to point at.
I think it is a good point though that like Victra and Karnus are somehow in a way two faces of the same coin.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you agree. I think he cares a little bit more about his family, but we'll touch on that when we get to the gala
Maybe, yeah,
scene.
you might be right. I mean, we don't really get to know him well enough to
Yeah.
know all that much. I think from Cassius and the stories we hear about how he treats his family, I would say I'm not sure
Yeah.
he was the older brother who was like showing you hardcore porn when you're like 8.
All right. So maybe he
And
wasn't
then when you didn't
the greatest.
understand it, he was the guy being like, "What are you, a fair?" He was being
Yeah.
like a monster.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure he's a great brother.
No. All right. Well, he cares. He cares about pride. That's something that
Sure.
we know for a
Yep.
fact, and
Yep.
the Bologna, or at least his own part and
And
to
his
play.
whole line, honestly, his line about all we have is our scream into the wind or to
Yeah.
whatever it is, I forget. It's
It's cool.
essentially like the truth. It's real. I mean, it's a very stoic kind of stoicism based comment, but like I believe that to a
Yeah.
certain degree, it is at the end of the day all you have. But yeah, go on. I'm sorry. I sidetracked us early on in Golden Sun already.
What we do know about Karnus, and we can agree on, is that he was sent by Miss Bologna or Mrs. Bologna to the academy on purpose to learn, as they said. But really, he was sent there to either kill or severely harm Darrow. He was on a mission. He was released from the basement.
He's there to end his career.
Yes, he wants to knock
Whether
him
that ends
down a
in
peg.
death or not, it doesn't matter. As long as he ends his career, that's all
Yep.
that matters.
But for whatever happened, this academy appears to be going in Darrow's favor. He is so close to his prize, the ultimate victory of the academy. But as this is going on, his thoughts, of course, once again drift to others, much like in book 1. He thinks of Mustang and how they left things off between them, and his thoughts go to the sons of Ares and his dread, not knowing what the hell to do because he has not had contact from anyone from the sons of Ares since before he left for the Institute. Although Dancer did tell him, I'll be in contact after you graduate from the Institute, it never happened. And from what we know and learn later, Darrow was pretty busy. And if you're catching up with the Book of Lorne, you know what he was doing. There wasn't much
Did you
time,
read
I
the
guess.
new edition?
I saw one came out today. I have not read it.
I read it immediately, and I am so in.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Oh yeah.
I need something in front of me, though. I need
I
I need a
know it
comic.
is weird. I'm at work and I'm like trying to read this really interesting and cool side story, but
Yeah.
also trying to like register people to vote.
Come
The
on now,
day of a life,
priorities.
the life, a day in the life of a town clerk.
Yeah. Oh, I think, you know, screw voting. You just got to get, the tin can, as they call it. We need to get more of the Book of Lore. Priorities,
Yes,
man.
yes,
My
indeed.
Goodman. So,
All right, another sidetrack.
Cullen's favorite character, Roke, pulls Darrow from his thoughts and informs him of his current situation. Karnus has one ship remaining. Darrow commands 7. It appears Karnus is burning hard for a defensive position between two massive asteroids. The pieces are in motion. It's at this point in time we realize there is a new face on the command deck. Al-Julii officially joins the series. And we have to take a moment, of course, to introduce her. We don't learn too much yet in this first chapter, but she becomes very important down the line and pivotal in many ways. And if anyone hasn't heard a little collab that we did with another podcast, Hail Reaper, I believe Victor is going to be pretty pivotal in Red God. So if anyone hasn't heard anything, check that out. We did a cool little collab, like I said. So we talked a lot on these future subjects. But here's a quote that I'd like to add in that Darrow mentions of Victra to give an idea of who the hell she is. She looks more like her famous mother than her younger half sister, Antonia. But in her capacity for general mayhem, she far outstrips both. That's a good way to introduce somebody. I'm just saying.
Hmm.
The infamous bitch of book 1, she's half sister to her. Now you kind of know a little bit of her capacity of what she could bring to the table, good or bad.
Yeah, there is a wild card element to her in
Yeah.
these early chapters. And, I just kind of not spoiled it, but like I just said, she has a good heart and Karnus doesn't.
Yeah.
But early on, we don't really know. And honestly, we don't really know even later in the series. We think Victra is good because her goals and intentions and aims are aligned with the reader and with Darrow and with the cause and all that. She pretty much comes out and says, like, if there's a moment where they don't align and I'm not
Yep.
on the same page, then I'm your
She'll
enemy.
let you. She
And
says, I'll
and
tell you. But
she'll tell you.
yeah.
And also, like, there's not many more enemies that you would not want to have,
Yeah. Yeah.
as we learn. And even here, you get a sense like this is first off a woman. So we're going to acknowledge that, like, you know, a woman on the command deck of a destroyer is an achievement in and of itself. Even though this is however many thousands of years in the future or whatever, it's still clearly there's a sexist vein within the society, even though it's
Yeah.
led by a woman. It's not like, it's not like everything is equal and everybody is willing to follow anybody, but like, so Victor being there is in and of itself merit to her abilities and character. And then we get a sense that like Darrow, Tactus, and Roke see her as an equal. They're not like, oh, she's the girl in the group. They're very much like she's a very dangerous component to this. And where her loyalties lie are important for them to know,
Yes.
particularly Darrow. Like he is concerned that he doesn't have her complete loyalty for quite some time.
I have to give
You
that to
know,
Pierce Brown's writing too, because I was completely confused. And I hate that because I was basically judging her because of her siblings or her parents, not on who she was. It just, the way he wrote it in, I was like, I don't know if I should trust her. And it was literally only because she's half sisters with Antonia. And we
and
are first person.
totally.
We don't know at this point what the hell her intentions are.
And also, I would say that my inherent, like as a man, my inherent bias, like I
Yeah.
was reading her very early on, and in all disclosure, like she's one of my top three characters. I think I want to be like Victra when I grow up.
Yeah. She's badass.
She's badass, but also I love the like honesty of her character.
Yep.
But when I was reading early on in these chapters, I just kind of assumed, because this is how it normally works in sci-fi and fantasy, that they've introduced a new love interest who we don't really know where her loyalties lie, and she might betray him because she has a family that has a record and a history of that. And so, these first chapters, I was very much like, oh, this is just a woman who is going to kind of muddy the waters with
Mm.
Virginia and make it so that Darrow doesn't know which girl he likes better. And then he's going to pick one and it's going to cause the other one to get really mad. And that's going to be how this goes. I didn't realize that, I was reading something that was elevating that, that trope and using it a little bit. Like he's
Oh yeah.
clearly doing that. Pierce
Oh,
Brown
this
is clearly
flirtation and stuff
planting
with
those
her.
seeds
Yeah.
for sure, but he's just subverting that and saying, you're an idiot man for just assuming that that's how this is going to go.
Yeah.
And I'm happier for now knowing that I'm an idiot man who just assumed that.
That's a great point. But he does plant that pretty well because she is very seductive and like she
Hmm.
appears to be intro into Darrow in the beginning. She always
Dude, she
flirting with
literally
him. Yeah.
says, you love women, you just don't enjoy them.
Yeah.
And is like basically throwing her body at him.
Hmm.
And he's just, cold shouldering it. Again, it's Pierce Brown doing that to say to me, the reader, you think I'm going to go here, but I'm actually going to go this way.
Yeah.
And it's super effective. And maybe that's why I like her so much, is that she like turned my expectations up on their head and made me see this particular character in a whole new light.
Yeah. That's a great point. Thank you for sharing, my Goodman.
Well, it is a podcast, Charles, so that's what we do here.
I'm learning every day. So Darrow has managed. Shut the fuck up. Darrow has managed to work his way through the academy, destroying all contenders save this Karnus beast. But I say this, but he has not done it alone. Roke has been there with him every step of the way. Importantly, Roke has not been a total shadow like in book one. In space, it's Roke's killing field. On land, hand to hand, he's outmatched in every way. In the skies, in space, he is, quote unquote, a prodigy. Roke repeats to Darrow that Karnus could be trying to pull him into a trap. The warning signs are there. Darrow responds, he doesn't have a fleet. Into the breach. The quote that I love from this chapter is from Darrow. This is so far from the future I imagined for myself as a boy. So far from the future I wanted to make for my people when I let the suns carve me. I thought I would change the worlds. What young fool doesn't? Instead, I've been swallowed by the machine of this vast empire as it rumbles on. It's only been a few years since Darrow's carving, but you can already.
Hold on. Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
I don't mean to interrupt you,
do it.
but that last quote, like, I think that I'm relatively sure that everybody feels that way.
Yep.
I have a feeling that men tend to feel that way a little bit, maybe more, maybe not, but just it, as my experience, as a young man, you're told very much, particularly of our generation, like you're going to go off to college and you're going to change the world. You're
Yeah.
an important person.
Well, they pushed
Um,
that heavy in
and
our generations. It was
yeah,
all
and,
about
and
college.
for sure, but also just the idea of like, you're going to do something, you're going to
Yes.
change the world. And I struggled with that for a long time. I think I drank too much and really had like real residual effects with that. as I realized I'm just a person and I'm not going to change the world in a big macro way because that's just the nature of the beast.
Yes.
And
Swallowed up
that
by
like
the
played
machine.
at me a lot. And now I look back and I'm a town clerk and I live a very little life, but I live it well and I enjoy it. And I wonder too, given your experience as a Marine, like you're sold on the idea of what you did or what you are doing is changing the world. But do you feel like that quote is appropriate to you or do you not? And
100%.
there's no right or wrong there.
I mean, I loved it and I included it because of very similar to you. In the grand scheme of things, I felt like I did something. I joined up, but did I really make a dent in anything? No. Like Karnus, it's just a shout in the wind. I the only positive that I take from it, and we may have mentioned this in the very beginning of this podcast, I always wanted to almost pay tribute to those that made this country what it was. So I personally felt obligated. I had to sign up.
Mhm.
I had to do time. And that was my mindset. And I know I did it the best of my abilities. And I've been struggling ever since trying to move on from it. But
But I think
yeah,
I don't know if you agree with this, but one of the things that's maybe helped me is the realization that like changing the world is out of grasp. It's out of reach.
100%
But
for a single
changing
person.
but changing lives, like changing somebody's life is very within the grasp of an average person. And if you can help positively change a person's life, that's, you know, in my opinion, that's as good, if not that actually is changing the world
Yes.
on some level.
What do
You
I
know?
normally say if things are down? I always say small victories. It's always
Yeah.
about small
Yep.
victories. It's those small acts of kindness. You know, I can't do great things in the whole scheme of the world right now, but I have to give a shout out to Redhead. Oh my God, now I can't remember the rest of her name. Scribbles.
Scribbles.
Like I bought some of her work and they came in and I was blown away and I just wanted to like post something on it and she gave a response and completely loved, and it's like that's the little things. Like this is what I can
Yeah.
do. It's all about, but you make it better every little way possible. You can't make vast large changes. It's not
So that's kind
feasible.
of a challenge for listeners out there. Don't try and change the fucking world.
Yeah.
Just go out and make somebody's day better. Make
Yes.
somebody's day easier. You know, this is not a preachy podcast. We don't give a shit about much of anything. But like truly, it does make a difference for everybody. If everybody's just trying to tweak things for somebody a little bit, make it like a little bit lighter for them.
Yep.
I mean, that's real change. And that's like, you know, that's irreplaceable. But
Now,
anyhow, it just made me think of like, you know, you actually did things. You partook in things that changed the world. And I would contend from our conversations that you don't feel as gratified or not proud, but as gratified by that as you do by the fact that like you have a wife who you treat well and loves you, and you have
yeah.
children that you are teaching, and not just parenting but teaching. And those things are like small in the scope compared to helping, you know, regime change another country or
Hmm.
whatever, but they're way more impactful and real in terms of our lives. You know, you can telescope it out and say that's not, but whatever. I'm sidetracking you again. I
No,
apologize.
I love it. But it also brings up a point that Pierce himself actually said recently. This week, he was on a little podcast with, I had it written down, Chris and Mads. They did a little something and they brought up a topic, but it was interesting of what Pierce was saying. And in the interview with them, he was just,
Hold on. I don't want you to accidentally throw shade. When you say a little podcast, their
oh,
podcast is
yes,
probably way bigger than ours.
yes.
It was an accidental. It's not shade. We don't need their
No, no, no.
fans like downgrading us or anything like that. It's a big podcast, bigger than ours, and it was great. So that's
100%.
what you meant.
100%. But as they were discussing Pierce Brown and a little bit of his own personal life, it's and his personal life has been reflected into the books, into the story on how Darrow changes and evolves. And what he wanted to bring up was how his own writing style and method also had to change and evolve because he got sucked up into the vast machine of the writing world. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he was talking about in book one how he was just barreling forward like a claw drill, just trying to bust through this story, through all this, try to get it all out onto paper, but then full steam ahead. But as he was writing and going through the story, and as time went on, it hit him, and he had to change. He had to adapt and learn from past mistakes and find a new way to continue the story and have meaning with it. So that was some cool little thing that just happened this week. And I thought it very much reflected part of this quote was being swallowed up by the vast machine. The author himself was, in my mind, a very similar parallel to that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think we've heard him allude to the idea of like publishers and publishing houses were telling him like you need to do YA. It needs to be Hunger Games so that you can get a movie deal and it can be a series and he was leaning into that at one point just to get into the conversation, and then
Yep.
you can tell like he blossoms out as, as he feels like he has more
It
power.
changed where then to your point, yes, he was trying to make it for them, but then at some point it shifts and he's like, I want to make this for me. This is my story, my
Mm,
book. And it's like he blocked out all the noise and then just hunkered down. And I feel it in every book. It just grows and becomes more unique.
agreed. Which is also probably a good thing for anybody that writes out there or creates, any artist. If you're listening, don't take our word for it because neither one of us are professionals, but
Nope.
take Pierce Brown's path. Like, do it as much as you can to get in the door, but then just do
Be
it for
yourself.
yourself.
Yeah.
Because once you're doing it for somebody, you try and please everyone, you please nobody.
Yep.
Um, but if you're just aiming to please yourself, then maybe people will like it. Kind
And
of our
me,
podcast, to be honest.
yeah,
It's like,
it's
in
been a
a
wild
nutshell,
ride.
we're doing it for ourselves, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, a couple people actually are listening, so that's cool.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
All right, I've sidetracked you. Fucking A.
I'm gonna
Go
start
on.
just start marking these down. This is bullshit. When it's your chapter, I'm just gonna start winging out random stuff.
You gotta. Payback's a bitch.
So now I get to the most, I'll argue, the most important moment of said chapter, chapter one, towards the end. First, though, I'm sorry, I forgot, we are introduced to the Blues, a very pivotal character. Finally, in the world of Red Rising, we have met a Blue. They are all logic, they are strict order, no bullshit. Their heads are shaven and they're covered in what they call digitats that help with their ability to sync with the electronics of the ship. They are mostly void of emotion and speak slower as they prefer to communicate in the digital realm. So, the most important part of this chapter, a Blue says to Darrow, I, Dominus, mind the concentration of metal in the asteroid presents difficulty in assessing spectral readings. We're a might blind. A fleet could hide on the other side of the asteroids. I try to do my emotionless voice.
That was not as good as some of your other ones, but it was pretty good. We'll take it.
I tried no emotion. So this is Darrow's failure, right? And I know what happens if anyone doesn't. I mean, you should know. You listen to this. After the rereads, this is where I realized this Blue wasn't reading metal in the asteroid, causing distortion He literally, at this moment, was telling Darrow, there's a ship in the damn asteroid or even on the surface of the asteroid. The metal readings is the ship, but due to its reactors being shut down, no heat signature, it didn't 100% register as a ship. Also, because it was half broken in half.
Wait, you're reading the wrong chapter, my friend.
No,
I
I'm
knew
not.
this.
No, I'm not.
What chapter are you on?
I'm on chapter 1, my goodman. This is at the end of chapter 1. I am reading the quote. It's 2 paragraphs before the end. Mind the
Okay.
concentration of metal. So we learn in the end of chapter 1, there, if you reread into it, that's a ship. It's picking up the ship, not metal distortion, in my mind, in my opinion.
Okay, no, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right.
Of course I'm right, my ducks. Don't
I
question
heard the
me.
middle of the ship and I was worried. I was worried.
Yes. So, but Darrow, in his haste of victory or his distraction of longing for Mustang or trying to connect with the Suns, which he hasn't in years, he plows on, which brings me back to Tactus's quote from the beginning, live fast, die young.
Mm-hmm.
And we have all heard about the saying, be without fear. Sometimes fear is what keeps us alive. Small amounts of fear cause us to pause, to reassess, double check the possibilities and outcomes. But too much fear, and it will bury you. That is what it is to be brave, knowing fear and still stepping towards it. In my opinion, Darrow's screw up was his total lack of fear in this moment. He was so sure of himself. This was it. This is the end. He didn't stop. That he had no fear to make him question it, double check, and think outside of the variables. That's my opinion on the end of this chapter.
I think that's a good point. And this is maybe where we read differently. Like I take the characters pretty much at their word.
Yep.
And my sense was like he's making the logical call here. Sure, you're always going to have somebody say, well, maybe this is a thing that you should be afraid of and you should reconsider. But the odds are, okay, I've destroyed my enemy's fleet completely. There's an anomaly here, but what are the statistical odds that it is something that could destroy me if I'm at like a point where I'm 98% likely to win a victory
Mm.
here? You know,
You still wouldn't change
there's a
any variable if you heard that there was an anomaly on this asteroid. There's heavy metal, and we don't know if something is beyond it. Knowing what you did in the Institute, wouldn't you?
but but he's statistically like he's counting the ships. Like he knows how
Yeah.
many ships that the enemy has. And he's saying to himself, well, if they have any left, it's one or, you know, one or two or whatever. And I have seven. So we see it like George S. Patton had a great line that I think I really admire. He's a questionable character, but he's got a very
Mm.
good read on things at times, sometimes.
Yeah.
But his quote is a bad plan executed violently today is better than a perfect plan executed next week.
Mm.
Like in the moment, if you just commit to something and do it, it's likely to be better than if you just sit by and plan and wait. And it turns out that it doesn't work out, but like Darrow has no way of knowing that. So he's got to assume I have to keep pressing home my advantage here.
Yes.
The enemy, maybe there's a ship back there, maybe there's two, but it's definitely not seven. And so I don't need to worry about parity. So I'm going to press my advantage here, take my aggressive attack home, and continue forward and finish this now, as opposed to sitting back waiting and letting my opponent giving them time and opportunity to come up with some plan. He just
Against.
doesn't know that they have a plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, but the only other issue I have too, you have two asteroids and you're trying to shoot in between it. You got one ship that's
Mhm.
trying to use it as cover, but you're in space. You can still change your axis, fly down and
Well, so
around, you
that's
know.
where things get wonky because, like, how do you that's more of a or in my thinking, that's more of a writer's issue.
Hmm,
It's not a criticism of Pierce Brown, but he's gotta convey this to a audience who is nobody none of us know how combat in space is gonna look.
fair
We have an
point.
inkling now, but it's mostly gonna actually the interesting thing is there's more likely that it's gonna be single operators, that you're gonna have a guy in a suit floating out to fuck around with somebody's satellites, and that's what early space combat's gonna look like. It's not gonna be ships floating around.
True.
So what do? You have to make it look like something we know, and it's not gonna be tank warfare because that's too linear.
Yeah.
So let's make it look like ship to ship because you can't really talk about fighter planes because that's too small. It's too narrow a scope. So let's make it sound like the age of sail. And so, and I'll go into it a little bit more in the next chapter, but I think that's why we don't have that. What you're saying is true. Like
Yeah.
if you have an asteroid that you've got to come around and you've got 7 ships, you have them all float in different directions and
Yeah.
then
You
come
could,
at the other side from every possible direction. You wouldn't just go like between them or
that's
whatever,
exactly,
you
I
wouldn't just
read it and I'm like, what are you doing? Like you have the
for
whole map
sure.
in front of you. You're not on land. There's no gravity. You can
There are
basically move.
no
There's no rules. Well,
there
there's
are no
rules, but
points to the compass here. It's
yeah,
not north, south, east, west. You can literally come at them from any possible direction. But how do you convey that to a reader in a way that they can actually understand it? I don't know. Nobody I've read has done it very well, or
mm,
the ones that have attempted it have just made it confusing. So I
yeah,
think it's more of a mechanism of the author. And that's why I think you just take, or I just read it as this is an aggressive commander. He's on the offensive. He's just trying to wrap this up. Yeah, sure. Maybe he wants to do it quick to get home to his girl or just be done with his enemy or whatever. But if that's your motivation for your aggressiveness, that it doesn't really matter. You're still aggressive
yeah.
regardless. So, and it's better to be aggressive in the vast amount of history that I've read in military terms, like aggression wins. You know,
Yeah.
if you're the aggressor, more often than not, through most of history, you will have a significant advantage. You might not win, but you have a significant advantage.
As long
And
as you're
again,
not
he
going up
thinks it's
against,
one ship.
yeah. And yes, and technically, we find out later on too. It was supposed to be one ship, and people have argued this online too. Like, how did he? How did things change? How did he not succeed? How it? People have still argued this, and he should have won. And I still don't get it at one point. Well, we'll talk on that. Yeah.
Yep. Because
So
that's the beauty of history, man. It is
yes,
not always the way.
true. But all right. Before we continue down that sidetrack, notable characters this chapter I wanted to touch on. There's two that we get into, and it would either have to be Victra or, and I hate to say it, but Roke takes this chapter as being,
100%.
yeah, the one. As we learned, he has grown when it comes to his skill in space as a space commander. We now learn that he's a top dog. He almost makes it poetic, taking out some of these other ships in command, slagging whole fleets with a beautiful flourish. He's the voice of reason in this chapter. He's the one that's warning Darrow of traps, possible traps laid ahead. He's quick to remind others that this is Darrow's fleet, Darrow's command, and nobody should question that, because at one point, I think Victra makes a comment and he shuts her down for that. And I
Which
saw,
does that make sense to you?
oh yeah, well, to insert, to make sure that like the dominance of Darrow's fleet, of him
But I mean
sticking up.
for Roke as a character. because when I reread that, I was like, "Oh, shit. He's laying a seed here." Pierce Brown is telling us Roke really believes in the command chain and society, the way, the structure of power and who has to have it, and even if an inkling of a his, co-commander or lieutenant voices something that's out of line,
Yeah,
Roke
you
is
shut it
reining
down.
it in immediately because he believes so much in the structure of this stuff.
That's a good point. I didn't even read it like that. I just saw it as like he's advanced and grown to the point where he's more confident, but I didn't see it as it's true. I see it that way now that this he loves the society and the structure of it, and this is affirming that. But
Totally. It's
I saw him.
power is power, and you have to obey it, and like everybody has their position and they have to stay in it.
Yep.
Or at least that's how I read it now.
I saw him as a future potential ally for helping Darrow and his armada wipe out the society's fleets. I saw it and I was like, well, all right, Roke's going to be a help here if we can, you know, once everyone learns the truth. But that's how I first read it. The only issue that I really had at Roke, but now it kind of makes sense how you explained it. At this time, even after a year of the Institute and now a year of this academy, basically, he still doesn't push back or step up to Darrow. Hey, this might be a trap. You shouldn't do this. If this was you and me commanding it, I would, in front of everyone, be like, "Hey, Cullen, stop fucking around. Like that's obviously a trap, but we need to change our way." But I
Sure.
like how he wouldn't do that. The way the belief system he has in the society, he wouldn't voice that.
Probably wouldn't even come into his head.
Yeah,
And in his defense, Darrow's been right, you
yeah,
know,
for
more often than
95% of the
not. And then
time.
throughout the Institute, like his gut has been right. So why would you question him when he says, no, we go on? You'd probably just say, well, I mean, he's been right. So I
Yeah,
guess we're going on.
yeah. Keep rolling. Continue the luck, the streak. The second quote from this chap that I really loved is a little bit on the longer side, but once said I had a sharp face with cheeks and nose seemingly carved from angry marble. I avoid mirrors myself. Better to forget the mask I wear, the mask that bears the angled scar of the golds who rule the worlds from Mercury to Pluto. I am of the peerless scarred, cruelest and brightest of all humankind. But I miss the kindness of them. The one who asked me to stay as I bid her and Mars goodbye on the balcony almost a year ago. Mustang. I gave her a horse crusted gold ring as a parting gift. She gave me a razor. Fitting. Now, when you first started reading the scars, and I've seen artwork from everybody, did you always picture it as like a circle under their eye when they got their peerless scar? I always pictured it as a downward slash, like a Viking.
No, I
You
always
never.
saw it as that because that's what it's within the Prussian military,
Mm,
like big time in the late to mid to late 1800s. The Prussians would give each other dueling scars.
okay.
And
Yep.
so if you were an excellent duelist, you'd have, I don't remember exactly the reasoning behind it, but it showed something about your ability with the sword to like just take a nick of flesh or whatever. And it was like the whole point was just to get a dueling scar. So
Hmm.
as soon as I read that in the Red Rising world, that there's this peerless guard and they're the epitome of the golds are have this one slash that just jumped into my head of these Prussian. You'd see them like if you look at pictures of World War I German colonels and generals, they tend to have, it looks like a wrinkle, but it's just
Hmm.
this like perfect slash scar, and they have a monocle and they look evil as fuck, but they were also like the most competent soldiers of the last 200 years, And so that's what it drew in my mind immediately. What did it do for you? What were you thinking?
Can you
Like a
look
Viking
evil?
scar?
Can you look evil with a monocle? That's possible?
Dude, what are you talking about?
I don't know. I don't think I could.
Yeah. There's I mean, it's not going to be good for the listeners, but
I want to
I'm going to
see an
find a
evil
Prussian
villain with a monocle. I feel like I would just
officer.
laugh.
No. No. I mean, think of like a Bond villain. Like this is what Dietrich von Sauken.
Hmm,
That
it's a
right
badass name.
there is an evil looking motherfucker.
Fair enough. That does look.
And
He
that's
looks.
a monocle. You see his dueling scar under his eye with the monocle?
Yep. Yep.
Like that's what I pictured immediately. And that's like,
He
you know,
almost looks like Frankenstein too with that head. Very
he does.
squared off looking, or at least from what I could
Let's just
see.
say he's, a face that only a mother could love.
So the monocle doesn't impact too much. No, all right. Now that all right, there's a menacing look to that. I'll agree. No, I always pictured it for some reason as like a downward scar, like a typical Viking or so. And then I saw all this artwork people are doing, and it looks cool, but it's just different than what I first imagined. Maybe they explained it too, how it curves, but that's how I always pictured it.
No, I don't think you're wrong. Like he doesn't, it's one of Pierce Brown's like most frustrating traits, but also why he's really smart about this is that
Yeah.
he doesn't go into great detail about much of any of this so that your imagination does all the work. It's like not showing the shark in Jaws was brilliant because it made you
Yes.
imagine the shark. And so you only see it for like 22 minutes at the end of the movie. And, it's not as scary as what you pictured in your brain. Pierce Brown does that in these books where he really not over explains, but in depth explains all the like political machinations and the ins and outs of the strategy and whatever. But all the like hard science fiction stuff, he just kind of puts it in there as color and you run with it in your brain and it
Yeah.
comes out cool as hell in your mind.
Yeah, you add your own little flair to it and make it your own to a point, and
Which
probably why
honestly,
people love it.
the like Viking scar is way more badass in my mind. Now that you've mentioned it, I'm like, oh, that's cooler.
Yes, and when you get to the gala scene, I'm pretty sure that's when, like, Darrow does that other known scar he cuts under his eye, but that they explained as, like, a downward cut, but I was like, "Didn't they already do that?" But the first time I read the book, I was like, "Wait, he's already peerless," and yeah. But I've always
But I'm
thought
sure
I
that's
wanted
some kind
that
of like
since, like, high school. We knew each
disgrace.
other back then. I was like, I always imagine a scar coming down my eyebrow, down my face. I don't know if we watched The 13th Warrior or something, and,
Oh yeah.
I
Well,
was in love with it.
it's kind of like Nelly. It's like the little razor blade in the eyebrow.
Yep. My wife noticed that too when we were watching Last of Us, and she's like, "What the hell's wrong with her eyebrow?" I'm like, "Well, it's a scar. Like they covered it in the first season. She gets hit, but all right, moving on." There's a hidden importance from this quote that you have to bring up, and it is the parting gifts themselves. The rings will come into play very shortly,
Yep.
and will aid in Darrow keeping his composure when dealing with a very important woman, and the razor. Now, I was just checking something. Now, to attack myself here a little bit, I haven't 100% kept up to date with the Book of Lorne, so maybe you could answer this for me, Cullen. Maybe it's in there. I haven't gotten the tin plates, or I want to get them. Did Darrow keep the fact that he was training with Lorne a secret, even from Mustang?
Well, now this is a big spoiler, a real spoiler, because some
All
people
right.
out there don't have the Book of Lauren
Okay. All right.
and aren't caught up. So speed up 30, give it 60 seconds and speed up. In the Book of Lauren, at this point, spoiler, 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 yes, he has told Tactus, Victra, and Roke, and so obviously it has gotten out. probably Tactus has bragged about the fact that he's about to be trained by Lauren O'Arcus. And so I would assume, because in this second chapter we find out that Nero knows about it, all of his friends know about it, and now apparently like all the browns and all the low colors in the household of Nero are Twitter about it. So
Well, how?
it seems as though probably Virginia knows as well.
Okay. But all right, so if I remember from the gala scene, we'll be going up to it. Tactus makes a comment to him like the fact that he didn't know he was trained by Lorne. So there, okay. Well, we'll pick that apart.
Yeah, we'll have to get there when we get there. But
The
from what I read today, and I only read it once, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you only told Roke and Victra, or maybe I misread something. But from what I read, it seems like it was a well-known secret,
okay.
and it would be surprising if Virginia did not know.
All right. So the point I thought would be cool is if very, very Mustang-esque, if Darrow kept it from her and as a last parting gift goodbye, he gives her a ring and she's like, here's your razor. I've always known you, asshole. Like, you kept it a secret from me. And this was like her way of being like, I knew.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
That's
that's
pretty
her.
good. That would
That's
be pretty good.
so let's see. This chapter, as well as chapter 2, are the reasons I had some hesitancy trying to jump back into this because I remembered what happens in these first couple chapters and
Mm.
it like bugged me. I don't know in my subconscious, but once I started digging back into it and reading it and the book soars, it takes off like a rip wing. And then I remembered how much I loved this
Mm.
book. So first few chapters are frustrating, but we are get introduced to a wider galaxy, combat, asteroid, naval combat, a little bit of a time jump, and to the point, Mustang and Darrow had a serious relationship where she didn't want him to go to the academy, but he ended up going anyway. And this basically rounds up chapter 1.
And I
Now,
think to your point, you're right. It is like the first 5 or 6 chapters are kind of like place setting, and
yeah,
there's not much going on. Even though there's a lot happening, it doesn't feel like any of it's propelling the story forward. But once it does, it's like you said,
hold
a rip
on.
wing just
Yeah.
firing off.
So to round this episode out, we just have a tight beam. We have received some messages about our cool newsreel, and it was an
Not
absolute,
cool.
yeah, it was a absolute blast. And moving forward, yes, we are going to do more newsreels between books. There's gaps in time and moments half spoken about at the end of one book or maybe in the beginning of another. And this is something where we feel like we can have a lot of fun and expand on these moments. And we hope everyone enjoys them. And Cullen's got some cool ideas and fan fiction and readings. And everyone that was involved in our newsreel, like just running down the list, Howler Pod, Howler Den, Fade to Obsidian, Reaper, Hail Reaper, Good Ladies, all the voices, everyone that the creators that joined in, we just wanted to show their cool work. So we are going to keep doing those. Um, they're a little more involved than I think we initially thought.
Which is why they're going to come in between books. They're not
Yes.
going to be a normal thing. They'll just be a one-off in between.
Yeah.
But to piggyback on what you're saying, like the whole point is to get these creators who do amazing work within the world, within the fandom, as many eyes and as much opportunity to sell their wares and their art. And so, everything around it, us and the other podcasters and other people that were partaking, that's just window dressing. We're
Yeah.
just there to showcase the amazing stuff that's being made. And so with that in mind, like if you want to be a part of the next one, let us know, you know, don't let us know right now because we'll
Yeah.
forget. But when we
Yeah.
come up to it, definitely shoot us a message and say you want to put a commercial in there, because that was the coolest thing for me, the best part of it was getting these amazing commercials that people had made of their own
Yes.
stuff. And yeah, I mean, it was just wild to be getting at like 11:30 at night. Somebody had put together a quick little video that would have taken me 2 years to make,
Yeah.
so I don't want to steal what you're saying. I just want to add to it that like it was very cool to see so many people come together. I think we had easily 20 plus people involved, and I think we had like 5,000 views. We've had it's been
Just
watched for
about.
like almost 30 hours, which it's I think it's like a 12-minute video, and everybody's probably watched like 3 or 4 minutes, but
It
30
adds up.
hours, that's
Yeah.
a fair amount of views, for a little project like that. So kudos to everybody that took the time to participate, and, anybody that wants to join in the future, just let us know.
Yeah. As we get towards the end of Golden Sun, we'll be reaching out to people too to try it again. But one of those
Yep.
creators is somebody I wanted to touch on, and it is Beer is the Mind Killer.
Hmm.
His name is Kevin. The guy's awesome, and he does everything from t-shirts to stickers to wall art. And he wanted to make an offer to anyone if they wanted to get something from his store, 10% off. If you just use the promo code Sons of Aries, you can find him on Instagram at Beer is the Mind Killer KC or beersthemindkiller.etsy.com. And, again, 10% off. You can help his creative vision. Just use the promo code Sons of Aries. After that, a little off planet holocan discussion, my goodman.
Fire away.
I have finally continued,
Oh,
I
for
haven't
Christ's
finished
sake.
Mind Over Murder. I have not finished it. I had HBO. I was piggybacking off of my sister-in-law allegedly, and then HBO made a little crackdown on that, and I had to get my own account finally. When we have more time, because I feel like 2 chapters here, we kind of sucked up some time, but I want to talk about that show some more because it just got bizarre real fast, and how it was handled between the sheriff's department and the other local PD.
Crazy, right?
It got muddy, and I'm a little annoyed.
That's good. That's the point.
Yeah. So we're gonna dig into that, but I feel like I've pulled up too much here. And there's another I want to also talk about Monster, the Ed Gein story. But
Oh, yeah, what'd
again,
you think?
I Charlie Hunnam, I didn't see him. I only saw him as Jax from Sons of Anarchy, and he played this role, and I'm a little scared for his mental health after this. Like he
He
plays a
was
pretty good
very
weird.
good.
Yeah, he was very
He was
impressive.
very good.
I didn't think he had that type of range, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just didn't see it working out. And then watching halfway through that series, I was like, he can do this shit. Like, well, I'm impressed. And that is a
Yeah, it was
horrible story.
I agree. It was a weird, because he's kind of just like a sex pot, right? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't think he was ever
Oh,
like
he's
a
a
good actor.
schizophrenic.
He's just like
Oh, you
he's like
mean, yeah,
like the actor. He's like a good-looking guy, and he just happens to be able to deliver lines, or at least that was my impression. Having watched a few episodes of that, I was like, actually, this guy can kind of act. This is a pretty surprising turnaround of my impression of him.
100%.
And the Ed Gein story, if you like that kind of stuff, check out the last podcast on the left, which is the bannership show for the weird and creepy stuff. They've been around, I think, almost 15 years now, and I've been listening to them since 2011 or 12. And they have the premiere show. I think they do like 2 or 3 million downloads an episode,
Oh, boy. Yeah.
but they cover Ed Gein, and what a wild story. Also, there's not Phil Spector, but there's a book about Ed Gein that's really great, and I think it's called Carnage or Crazy or something. Anyhow, I agree with you. Charlie
Yeah.
Hunnam did a very surprisingly good job as Ed Gein.
As a very creepy OG to all of the horror films that have been out since
Oh, yeah.
decades. You know,
I
he
mean,
was Leatherface,
Psycho,
he was Psycho, he
which,
was
by the
Chainsaw
way, I'm going to
Massacre.
see in the theater tomorrow.
Really? All right. Well,
Yeah.
I hope it's pretty good. I'm gonna be
I've
dealing
obviously
with
never
kids.
seen Psycho in the theater, so I'm pretty excited about it.
So is it just gonna be like the original, but
Yeah.
remastered up in the
Yeah.
theater? Yeah,
No, 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 just at, like, an old school theater here in Maine where they play, like, original film film,
that's
and,
cool.
yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
It's like 8 millimeter film. It's like,
I mean, it's not quite that, but
yeah,
it's the same idea.
yeah. So this concludes my mission of the prologue in chapter 1, the beginning of Golden Sun. I'm excited for, I will call it this season that we're doing, this book. If you could find us on Apple, Spotify. Please rate, review. It help us out. We are the Sons of Aries Pod. Our Instagram is kind of growing, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. And we're trying to pump out some fun content every week. And that is also at the Sons of Aries Pod. And we are putting everything on YouTube. If you have any questions covering any chapters, topics, characters, your dislike for Roke as much as me, just to piss Cullen off, please,
Nobody has that much dislike for Rogue.
yeah, please send us a tight beam, either through our Instagram or the Sons of Aries podcast at gmail.com. And if you have a passage specifically that you want discussed, or even a moment in the series that you love and you want to have Cullen narrate it, I am going to prostitute him out. Send us a
All right.
message. And yes,
I'm just
For
a
now.
lowly ping.
yes. For now, we're going to be signing off. We are the Sons of Aries, and for the Rising.
All right. Thank you, Charles, for bringing us the prologue in chapter 1. For the Rising, we'll catch you in the next one.